Preface. The modern world is complex, uncertain, and noisy. This inevitably means that we are always under stress. We are expected to do more, to be smarter, and to be more productive. Some of us are doing this willingly, trying to fulfill some purpose, trying to achieve some dreams. For others, it is a necessity to make a living and to survive. Whatever may be the case, in this kind of lifestyle, there is no space for a relaxed, organic state of mind. We need to also understand that it is not just about having some free time for ourselves. We do get some free time, most of us do, like holidays and weekends. But even during these times, we are not able to fully disconnect and unwind. Instead, we have anticipatory stress at the back of our mind. In short, this state of tension has become a habit, and we are having difficulty relaxing. This is a problem, and we need to first accept the problem if we want to find some solutions. We need to also accept that this continuous state of tension is not normal. Relaxation, by its nature, requires us to go towards our natural, comfortable, organic selves. In simple words, this state is a state of being normal. Our situation today is so bad that we have forgotten how to be normal. It is as if we started from our organic origins, walking a long winding path, and reached the destination of our modern complex life. But now, we have forgotten how to go back to the source, how to follow the same winding path backwards. Since it is a long winding path, it is not going to be easy. At least not easy till you walk the path frequently and it becomes familiar. May this book act like a map and give you some tools to find your way more easily. Part 1. Understanding raw perception. Children are excited about every new experience. Adults are less so. Let's try to understand the reasons behind this. To grasp what is happening, we need to first get some insights into how human perception works. Let's do an experiment. Imagine a piece of paper. You can pause and try this right now. Just imagine a piece of paper, then continue reading further. Did you imagine a piece of paper that was white? Rectangular? Approximately A4 size? That's what most people do. Now, why did you imagine white and not red or yellow or multicolored or transparent? Why rectangular and not elliptical or circular or hexagonal? Why normal size and not a paper that is microscopic or paper the size of the Earth? Something common about these choices was that they were done subconsciously, kind of automatically, and you didn't consciously choose the properties of paper. The subconscious mind does this automatically, if nobody makes a conscious choice. For example, if the original question was, imagine a red piece of paper, then the choice was consciously made by someone, and then you would have imagined a red piece of paper. Or if you had stopped for a minute, given it some conscious thought, and made a creative decision, you would have chosen maybe a blue piece of paper or some other color, who knows. Rule 1. When you don't make choices consciously, your subconscious mind makes some choices for you, without your involvement. Now, why did the subconscious mind choose white A4-sized paper? Because it's the most obvious choice. In other words, it's the most uncreative choice. Rule 2. Automatic subconscious choices are the most obvious and uncreative. Note that the subconscious mind is commonly linked to creativity, and this is true. But the subconscious mind is vast and has numerous faculties. In this case, we are talking about only one aspect of the subconscious mind, which is the faculty of perception. Now, if you look more closely, you will notice another thing. When you were told to imagine the piece of paper, the question specified nothing about color or size or shape or temperature or position, etc. But still, what you imagined had all these properties. Or rather, your subconscious mind conjured all these properties. It filled in these properties. Why? Because without these properties, imagination doesn't work. For example, you can't visualize a piece of paper without assigning it some color or texture, etc. So overall, our subconscious minds are making a lot of choices, and many times we are not even aware of what all choices it is making. Rule 3. The mind needs some common properties for imagination. Color, size, temperature, etc. are some of these properties. For the white A4-sized paper, the properties that were filled in some sense, were predictions. Take, for example, color. When we see paper in the real world, we see white paper most of the time. So the subconscious starts making rules. If it's paper, then it's commonly white. So when you have to imagine a paper, and the subconscious needs to fill in the color property of the paper, the subconscious makes a prediction that it is white. Rule 4. Subconscious filling in is always a prediction based on what we experience often. Combining rules 1, 2, 3, and 4 for imagination. When we want to imagine something, we need some common properties, such as color, size, temperature, etc. If you don't choose any of these properties consciously, the subconscious mind chooses the properties for you, and it will always make the most obvious/uncreative choices. The choices are predictions based on what we commonly experience in the real world. Now, our imagination really is our minds making up a simulated version of reality. What we consider as reality is mainly what we perceive with our senses. So there is a very close connection between imagination and perception. And it's not just about what we imagine that is related to perception, but also how we imagine. We are talking about the imagination machinery itself. This machinery, this faculty of imagination, gets trained on what we experience in the real world, meaning our perception. To give you an example, consider an unfortunate person who is blind by birth. This person has never seen a thing, has never experienced what seeing is. Can this person see a visual picture in their mind's eye? In their imagination? No. Because in order to be able to train the imagination for visualization, one needs real visual experiences. So speaking in general, the faculty of imagination is derived from what we see in the real world, perception. What we see in the real world always has some common properties, such as color, size, temperature, etc. So objects in our imagination have these common properties too. Basically, our imagination schemas are derived from our perception schemas. What applies to imagination also applies to perception, including the filling in of properties. Rule 5. Combining Rule 1, 2, 3, and 4 and applying it for perception. When we see reality, we need some common properties, such as color, size, temperature, etc. If you don't get any of these properties from your senses, your subconscious chooses the properties for you, and it will always make the most obvious/uncreative choices. The choices are predictions based on what we commonly experience. It is easy to see that imagination and perception are related. And we already saw that imagination includes some predictions. But in the case of perception, the perception prediction part can be a little tricky to grasp. We think we always have all the information when it comes to perception. After all, we are seeing or hearing something that is right in front of us. We are experiencing it. Why should there be any filling of properties for perception? The answer is that there are missing properties during perception. As we saw earlier, the mind needs several properties to see something in the mind's eye, and some properties can be missing even in perception. Perception is not always absolute and complete. The most common example of this perception property filling is body temperature. For example, we rarely touch people we meet. So the temperature of a person is often a missing property from our perception. Our subconscious mind just fills our body temperature for everyone, because that's the most obvious, uncreative choice. That's why when we shake hands with someone for the first time, and when it feels cold/warm, it feels strange. Something similar also happens when raw perception is not clear. For example, if it's dark, a rope might seem like a snake. It is your subconscious that is making these predictions. Thus, perception is not absolute. Parts of our perception are predictions filled in by our subconscious mind. Rule 6. A feeling is also one property that the mind needs for imagination and perception. We cannot imagine or perceive something devoid of any feeling attached to it. Most of the time the feeling is subtle, but it's always there. Mostly it's subdued and boring for day-to-day perception, because whatever becomes too common becomes boring. This feeling is a very important concept, and we will come back to it in later chapters. Now back in our paper imagination exercise, if you wanted, the conscious wanted to imagine a red piece of paper, had made that conscious choice, then yeah, you would have imagined a red piece of paper. Rule 7. Whatever the subconscious predicts for missing properties, if conscious wants, the conscious can always choose, and the conscious has a good chance of winning. In summary of Part 1, perception is not absolute and has two components. A. Raw sensory perception. And B, which is some characteristics that are predictions filled by the subconscious. The conscious can often override the missing properties, if it wishes so. Part 2. Learning from children. Perception. Let's now relate what we learned about perception to how children perceive the world. And in that sense, try to compare children versus adults. We saw in Chapter 1 that perception has two components: raw sensory perception and predictions made by the subconscious mind. There is a difference when it comes to perception versus prediction for children versus adults. Children have more raw sensory perception and less prediction. Adults have less raw sensory perception and more predictions. Predictions are based on the most common experiences, so they are not very exciting. So as we grow up, new experiences start becoming less exciting. Basically, adults have expectations in their mind about experiences and predictions made by their subconscious mind, even before they try to experience something new. Thus, children are more excited about new experiences than adults, because they are more open to experiences. Part 3. Learning from children. Behavior. Rule 1. Perception predictions create expectations, and expectations drive reality. Consider children in play school. When a child meets another child for the first time, the child starts playing first without predicting how the other child is. Children experiment first and almost don't get into prediction. Adults, on the other hand, predict first and try to experiment later, if at all. For example, when adults meet a person for the first time, they see the other person is from south or north, and skin color is so-and-so, and hence this person must be this way, and so on. When we, adults, meet a new person, we make predictions about the person. These predictions happen almost automatically. They are based on our past perception history, meaning our experiences. The predictions are also not just about how the person is, but also about how the person would behave. If people don't behave as per our predictions, that becomes a surprise. We feel as if something is different or odd. So basically, when we get into a new experience, we carry our expectations into the experience. People react to us in the ways that are expected from them. This creates a perception prediction, expectation behavior lock-in, and that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. For example, if you believe you are not an interesting person, you carry the expectation in your mind that people won't find you interesting. It then shows in your body language, people sense that, and then they really don't find you interesting. It becomes a cycle. Rule 2. Expectation-driven model creates and maintains our comfort zones. Comfort zones are where everything is as expected. It is a familiar and safe environment. Staying always in a comfort zone, however, can make us complacent and can hinder our growth. We need to try new experiences and opportunities, and that requires us to get out of our comfort zones. People try comfort zone challenges as a solution, where they try to do something different, to be creative, or to try something new. But these comfort zone challenges are difficult. One reason is because of our prediction expectations. We go into the comfort zone challenge with expectations already built up. We have a storyline already created in our mind based on our expectations. For example, this new thing I am trying for the first time will give me anxiety. Instead of open-minded experimenting, we make these predictions before going into new experiences. Rule 3. Society loves predictability. Our world is designed to avoid unpredictability. Our official systems are based on social contracts, schedules, roles, and structures. We don't like it when things don't go as per these norms, or people don't behave as per what is expected from them. Society incentivizes work as expectedness. Summary of Part 3. If we want to play and experiment like children, we need to experiment without this habit of predictions, expectations, and see reality as it is, and be open to whatever happens. Part 4. Being better adults? Children are not perfect. They make mistakes and sometimes with negative consequences. We adults are supposed to be better. We do become better in many aspects as we grow up, but we do become worse in some other aspects. One bad habit adults have that we saw earlier is too much reliance on prediction and very less reliance on perception. Though children have more raw perception and less prediction, they don't do this consciously. It happens this way because their prediction system has not matured enough. They have no control over the perception-prediction balance. They cannot consciously tune the balance. This ability to tune perception-prediction balance is a new ability that we need to learn as adults. There are some other aspects, but this aspect is the most relevant to the topic. Words help to visualize ideas. So let's see what good words or phrases we commonly associate with normal children. Several characteristics are listed below. The ones in italics are related to perception, while others are related to behavior. Playfulness, being present, connected to surrounding, being immersed in the environment, eager to explore, being open, being vulnerable without thinking that, oh, now I am being vulnerable, being organic, being available, non-judgmental, not overthinking, healthy, robust, innocent, open body language with free movement, being connected to the body, not being measurement-oriented, like not thinking is my life better than yesterday? Not being trauma-prone in the sense, while playing, if a child falls down with not much injury, it just gets up and just goes on normally. This use of word trauma is not in the sense of childhood trauma. Not being story of life-driven. Being in the flow. Average versus normal. Average adults are rarely connected to their surroundings. They are disconnected from their body. They have lost the ability to play. They have a closed body language. They are too obsessed with the story of their life. There are many such issues in modern lifestyle. We do not want to analyze the socioeconomic or cultural reasons for this in this book. However, we want to be honest and accept this is below normal. With acceptance, we can start thinking about how to improve. In simple terms, we need to learn to become more normal adults. Note that when we say we want to be more normal, we are not necessarily trying to be positive in the traditional sense of the term. But being normal is being neutral and open. Normal also has a natural tendency towards balance and health. We can't always be in a normal, open, relaxed state due to the needs of society. But when we want to, such as on weekends or vacations, we should have access to these organic mental states. Ultra-deep relaxation is, apart from being just a fancy name, one such example of how a normal person would relax. Since we have lost the ability to be normal and have come very far from it, relaxing like a normal would seem like a deep, meditative, profound, and healing experience. Our goal in Part 2 and 3 was to understand what we can learn from children when it comes to the normal, healthy state of the mind-body. The goal of Part 4 was about the necessity of being better adults. In the next few sections, we will try to better understand the characteristics of various states of the mind. We will then try to get a sense of direction towards more organic states of the mind. Part 5. An altered state of being. As we go through different life situations, our mental state changes. Sometimes we are sad, some other times we are happy, some other times bored, or even a mixture of emotions. We don't just feel emotions in our mind, but we feel them in our bodies too. Being happy feels light in the body, while grief feels heavy, or being anxious feels like butterflies in the stomach. Since mind and body are so connected, when we say mind, going forward, remember that it refers to the mind-body, or rather the person as a whole. Our emotional states are not just about how we are experiencing in mind and body, but they also alter what we do when we are in these states. For example, some people eat less when they are under stress, while some people eat more under stress. Hence, different states also involve different behaviors. Our emotional states also alter our perception. If you are in a low mood, someone trying to console you might give you an irritating feeling. Or watching a feel-good movie may not make you feel good. But if you are happy, even normal day-to-day experiences feel good. Hence, different states also alter our faculty of perception. These states of experiencing or states of being are what we commonly call states of consciousness. Sleeping and dreaming are similarly other states of consciousness, just that they are more distinct. Similarly, we want to define a normal, relaxed state of consciousness. Note that we do not want to get too attached to the terms consciousness versus mind versus body. We want to think of a person as a whole. So we will say we want a relaxed state of being. The discussion here onwards is about what this state is, how to achieve this state, and how to stabilize this state. To understand these states better, we will take an analogy. We will consider these mental states as a territory. Mental states as points on a territory. Think of your favorite mountain range, like the Himalayas or Andes or whichever you like. Mountain ranges have complex terrains. A mountain range has valleys, hills, small and large elevations, some trenches, some craters, and so on. Think of this entire mountain range as a territory and consider it analogous to a mental experience space. Imagine different mental states as if they are different points on this territory. For example, if you are happy, you are at one point on this mountain range, while if you are sad, you are at another point on this mountain range. Now we can draw similarities between mental states on a mental territory and a real mountain range territory and see what we can understand about mental states. For the mind, we are habituated to certain mental states. We habitually act in certain ways, think in certain ways, and do certain things. We think this is part of our personality. Over a period of time, these mental states have become common, familiar, and stable. Consider a territory and consider you are currently in a valley. If you want to climb out of the valley, it will take effort and energy. Similarly, if you are in a stable mental state, then it's like being in a valley. And just like the territory, getting out of a stable, habitual mental state takes effort and energy. If you are embedded in a depressed or sad or anxious state, then that is also like being in a valley. It takes effort to come out of such mental states. Now let's consider the opposite. Consider you are on a hill. If you want to come down from the hill, it's relatively easy. But it's difficult to go back up, and going up takes effort and energy. If you are in a mental state that is not stable, it's like being on a hill. It is easy to fall back from an unstable mental state to a habitual mental state. Usually, happiness is like a hill, it is an unstable mental state. It's easy to come down from a happy state of mind, but difficult to get back up. For valleys in a territory, practice makes it easy to go into the valleys. For the mind, practice makes it easier to get into common habitual states of mind. For territories, if you walk frequently in valleys, then it makes valleys deeper. For the mind, if you are getting into a habitual state of mind frequently, then that also makes the habitual mental state deeper. For hills on a territory, practice makes it easy to climb the hills. For the mind, similarly, practice makes it easier to get into states of mind which are not stable. For hills on a territory, if you frequently walk on hills, then that makes the hills flatter. For the mind, getting into states of mind that are unstable makes the states more stable. Happiness can be a valley too, meaning it can be easy to fall into a happy state of mind. There are people, like yogis or saints, which are always in a stable, blissful state of mind. Also, normal children are generally happy, or it is easy to often make children fall into a happy state. Sadness can be a hill too, meaning an unstable state. For example, people that are very mindful can become sad, but the sadness doesn't last long, and they fall down easily to a normal state of being. For valleys in a territory, the deeper you go into a valley, the less you can see outside. Similarly, for the mind, always being in a stable or habitual mental state makes it difficult to see the space of possibilities, and you might get stuck in ordinariness. On the other hand, going on a hill makes you see the territory better. So, climbing hills or experiencing unstable states makes it easy to understand what can be experienced by the mind. It helps to understand our mental space and its possibilities better. Due to this reason, taking breaks and vacations are important. Even if they make you feel different for small amounts of time, they open your mind to the possibilities of life. Most of what happens in our lives is centered around the self, so we are always practicing the self. As we saw earlier, practice makes valleys deeper, and this applies to the self as well. Effectively, since everything we do is always around the self becomes the deepest valley. Since it's a deep valley, the more you get attached to the self, the less possibilities you can see in the landscape. We typically navigate our mental landscape using stories. Meaning, when our mental state changes, the state change depends on what is happening in the storyline of our lives. For example, if you are in a happy state and something bad happened, you navigate to a sad state. This point about story-based navigation is important even to navigate to a normal organic state of mind. To go anywhere, we have to start from where you currently are. So you need to navigate to organic states by aligning to the story of your existing life. We don't always need stories to navigate mental states. We can navigate without stories if we wish so. This point is extremely important for deeper organic states since they can't be navigated easily with stories. Now, we are trying to navigate to a normal, relaxed state of mind-body. Let's call this ultra-deep relaxation state or UDR state. We are giving this state a label since it's easy to consolidate ideas around a label. We want to figure out how to reach this state. Initially, any new mental state is unstable. It will appear like a hill. As we have seen previously, it takes effort to climb hills. It's also an unfamiliar hill. You might get lost since you don't know how to navigate an unfamiliar mental territory. It will take some pathfinding to reach such a state. You might get stuck at certain levels. Since it's a hill, it's easy to fall down and hard to climb up. While climbing, you may not always see what is above in the territory. You might have the illusion that you have reached near the top, but there might be further possibilities you are not aware of. We want to learn to make this state stable as soon as possible. With practice, hills flatten, so it will become easier with practice. You would also become familiar with the territory, so would know easy paths to go up. Once the UDR state becomes stable, it will seem like a valley. This is our long-term goal. Part 6. Life story. The map is not the territory. Also called the menu is not the meal. Note, here the term territory is used differently than Part 5, not to be confused. What is a map? It is a diagrammatic representation of an area of land showing physical features, cities, roads, etc. A map represents a territory on paper. Similarly, when you look at life, the story of your life is a map. Your raw life experiences are the actual territory. It's the true reality of experiences where life happens. In modern life, we are getting too involved in the story, as in how my life is turning out and so on. We have started thinking that the story is the important thing, and we have begun to forget about the true organic life experience itself. We have analyzed and navigated using the map too much for too long, and at some point, we started giving too much importance to the map, even more than the actual territory itself. But in reality, a map is always just a representation. A map can never capture the true essence of the territory. We see this especially on social media. There, we see stories of others, and people see our story. Over a period of time, we start believing that getting the story of our life right, as seen by others, is our goal. Take, for example, the selfie-taking phenomenon. If someone went on a vacation, they want to take the perfect photos rather than experiencing the raw ambience. But we need to see that the story, I went to so-and-so place with so-and-so person and saw this or that, is not more important than the raw organic experiences at the place. A map filtering effect. The main purpose of any map is navigation. Our life story, being a map, is always guiding us, always trying to keep us on some path. So our life story is important. There is absolutely no doubt about it. But have you tried navigating using a map? Trying to find a new place? Traveling in some new, unfamiliar area? What happens while you are doing this? You are looking at your map, and then you are looking for some landmarks based on the map. Your whole focus is on navigation, so your mind is filtering out lots of things happening outside. Something similar happens when you are navigating your life based on the story. You focus on landmarks like deadlines, pending work to do, things to buy, weekends, and so on. This filters out a lot of things that are happening outside. Real life cannot be experienced when you keep looking at a map and trying to find things on the map on the outside. You need to put the map down and look. Words are not reality. We think about our lives in monologue or internal dialogue. When we talk about stories of our lives, it's also similar, in the sense it's all text-based. Words are quite powerful, there is absolutely no doubt about it. If we look at fictional literature, we can see that words can weave a powerfully vivid reality. But when it comes to organic experiences, there is more experience than words. This is why we say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And also, when people want to connect, they hold hands or hug or look at the other person's face or body language. From an evolutionary point of view as well, language is a more recent phenomenon. There are older forms of communication, such as body language, voice, and touch. Even animals understand touch. These modes of communication are more raw. Using words to explain reality can never come close to using your senses to experience the same reality. Story-driven mental states. In the story-driven narratives of modern life, we are always thinking. Our emotional states are being driven by thoughts. There is another, a more different way to drive emotional states. It is through organic experiences. For example, seeing the face of a loved one, or being touched by someone, or seeing a beautiful natural scene. Note that the emotions don't get triggered via the thought, I am meeting someone I love, but it just happens. It is triggered by your subconscious processes, and you have less control over it. Reality is much more profound. True life happens in this profound reality. Part 7. Tuning down your story work. Relaxation needs letting go. We hold a lot of things in our minds. Our life story requires us to hold a lot of roles and concepts. We have dreams to pursue, goals to meet, deadlines, unfinished business, things that are not right in our lives, things wrong in the world, and on and on. We can't relax unless we let go, at least temporarily. Note that all the things we are holding are related to the story of our lives. And as we saw earlier, stories are maps. They are not reality. And one needs to connect better to reality in order to relax. Identities. We live in various identities, such as professional identity, personal identity, and so on. We embody our identities. For example, if I am an engineer, I physically feel a certain way. But if I was a doctor instead, I would have physically felt different in my body. I would have walked and talked a bit differently. Similarly, if I were poor or rich or middle class or living in US or China or Cambodia, and on and on. These identities are active in our body. We can't relax because our identities can't relax. Something to remember is that these identities are all centered around stories. One reason our identities can't relax is because the storylines of our identities don't define relaxation. For example, if you are an engineer, have you ever imagined a relaxed engineer? If not, then you can't embody being a relaxed engineer. You don't need to become a relaxed engineer, though. It would be an interesting experiment. But there are better ways. Now, the organic self, on the other hand, has no story. It just lives. It has tendencies, though. For example, it tends towards balance and health. We need to stay with only this organic self during relaxation. Also, organic has more flexibility. It is not tied too much around a central self-concept. So even though we use the term organic self, understand that the word self here is a loose concept. So let's consider a scenario. You have a free weekend and you want to let go and relax. What sort of thought processes would you follow? A thought script for an engineer would look like below. I am letting go of my identity as an engineer. I am just a person and not an engineer. I want to spend some time just as a person and not as an engineer. These are 3 sample variations, and there can be more. Choose whatever suits you. Other aspects of what you identify with can be listed down as well. All the strong identities need to be in this list. So your instructions list would look something like the below. I am disconnecting from my past. I am disconnecting from my future. I am disconnecting from my present life situations. I am disconnecting from my educational identity. I am disconnecting from my professional identity. I am disconnecting from my gender identity. I am disconnecting from my religion. I am disconnecting from my country. I am disconnecting from my culture. I am disconnecting from my family and relatives. You can add your own disconnection instructions to the list as well. When you read this list, let go of feelings that you hold with these identities. Read with purpose and emphasis. It is always good to prepare a written list. Remember that the obvious things are the ones that are easy to miss. Self-talk. As modern people, we always have thoughts. These thoughts are keeping our stories active all the time. Most of these thoughts are either self-talk or an imagined dialogue with someone else. Thoughts lead to induced emotions, and the emotions lead to further thoughts. We are constantly stuck in this game. To tune down our story work, we need to tune down our thoughts. It need not cease completely. We do not want to suppress it, but we want only the organic self-talk that would help towards the relaxation process. This is difficult, especially if the mind is not filled, as we will see later. Once you have continuous organic experience, the self-talk will tune down automatically. Also, we don't have to obsess about tuning down the self-talk completely. Even if you keep oscillating between an organic experience and your average life story, it's fine. Relaxation is part of the solution. Agreed that you have dreams to pursue, goals to meet, deadlines, unfinished business, things that are not right in your life, things wrong in the world, and so on. And you want to be always doing something about these. If you try to relax and do nothing, you feel like you are not working towards these goals. But there is a problem with this mode of being. Consider your mind-body as a car. Then relaxation is like servicing and maintaining the car. Say your goal with the car is that you want to do cross-country travel. If you don't service and maintain the car, and you think servicing is a waste of time, the car will not run efficiently and might break down on the way to the cross-country goal. If you do regular servicing and maintain your car, in the end, you will have a smoother ride towards your cross-country goal. Similarly, relaxation is not misaligned with your life goals. On the contrary, it will help towards your goals. After true relaxation, you get to really focus on your goals with a fresh mind-body. Without relaxation, you might be running very inefficiently, might be making yourself ill, and might even get into a burnout. So relaxation is an essential healing and recovery part of your story. Relaxation has a definite role to play towards your success. Don't fight it thinking that you should be doing something else instead. Accept relaxation wholeheartedly and lean into it. Claiming time. Modern humans are driven by the clock. Even on holidays, we often look at the clock and make decisions based on the clock. Organic part of you, on the other hand, does not stick to our artificial clock. Organic part of you has its own rhythm. It understands day and night cycles, periodic hunger, and so on, and it has its own leisurely pace. One of the characteristics of an organic, normal person is being naturally perceptive and listening to this flow. To relax, we need to take back our time. It sounds very basic, but as modern humans, we are not used to mentally claiming time. Claiming time is, for example, deciding, with finality, that you will spend 4 hours of a relaxed evening on a Saturday and accept this decision completely. Claiming is telling yourself that you will not do anything much for the next 4 hours, and that is completely okay. Many people are driven by a growth and productivity mindset today. For such people, instead of relaxing, they keep feeling that they should be doing something productive instead. This dilemma creates a tussle in their mind and does not allow going deep into the relaxation state. But repeating again, that relaxation has a definite role to play towards your health and success, and it is a very productive thing to do. If your mind is still not convinced, wait till your mind says it has had too much and now it needs to relax. You can't force yourself to relax, so just wait it out. Acceptance of the process, and that too a wholehearted acceptance, is the key to deep relaxation. If you feel it will help, as an example, you can tell yourself that you are going to waste the next 4 hours and that is okay. This is of course not true, since relaxing and having a beautiful organic experience is not wasting time. But if still, the narrative that I am going to be wasting time and that is okay helps, it's okay to follow that path. Whatever works. After a few deep organic sessions, your mind will not need convincing, and it will become very easy, and you will look forward to your relaxation times. The problem of meaninglessness. Human life is driven by the search for meaning. We think if we live a meaningful life, then it will make us feel validated, then our life has had some value. Modern humans try to get the most meaning in life through a success story. This is why nowadays everyone wants to be successful, or be larger than life, or make it big, etc. These stories help us towards a meaningful life. There is no doubt about that. They are a necessary part of a functioning life. Problem arises when we start attributing all the meaning to the life story. You have to realize that there can be meaning in life outside of the story. Organic experiences, for example, are deeply meaningful. Initially, however, you might feel this whole relaxation business as being meaningless, because nothing much happens during this period that you can connect to your life story. And this meaningless feeling is expected to some extent and something to look out for. This is one of the doors towards the relaxation state. Once you start having the organic experiences and realize how deep and meaningful they are, this problem will go away. But as with everything else, you need to have some faith in the outcome before you start. If you feel it will help, as an example, you can tell yourself that you are going to have completely meaningless 4 hours, and that it is perfectly okay. This is of course not true, as you will see with actual relaxation experiences. But if still the narrative helps, it's okay to follow that path. Whatever works. Sometimes, letting go of search for meaning is itself relaxing, and ironically, a meaningful experience in itself. Part 8. More issues with perception prediction. Perception prediction decides how we react to what we see in the world. For example, if you look at a good-looking man or a beautiful woman on the road, you automatically assume that they are happy. But the fact is you don't know that. These are predictions, and this automatic activity is characteristic of perception prediction. Most people, when they are in relaxation settings, say on a vacation in a resort for example, still keep acting the same way as they do otherwise, and most of this activity is automatic. Perception is an active process. Perception always leads to thoughts, it leads to emotions, and it always leads to predictions. Prediction also is biased. Perception predictions are based on self-image. For example, someone has a sense of low self-worth then, they predict optimistically for others, and they predict pessimistically for themselves. Perception also becomes habitual, in the sense that perception thoughts become habits. Perception emotions become habits. Perception predictions also become habits. Problem with relaxation. Since perception predictions are habitual, they keep causing reactions that are automatic. Since you have less control, this hampers your ability to act organically. Be mindful. What is habitual can be altered if you are conscious of it. So keep observing, try to be aware and mindful of automatic reactions. Part 9. How we interact with spaces. Do a Google image search, liminal space. The results will show a lot of images of empty spaces. Take any one space image that you like, and now imagine being physically present in that space. How does it feel? Why does it feel different? How does this feeling get created? Spaces have a feel. If you go to a temple or a church, you feel calm and serene. Natural spaces have a serene feeling too. Offices typically feel tense in comparison. This feel has subtle emotions that the space is inducing. It is not just an abstract thought. You feel it in your mind-body. The feel is not completely dependent on the space, but it depends also on your experiences in that space. For example, if you are at home or school or office, and the home or school or office has toxicity or abuse or stress, then that's the feeling you associate with that space. You feel stress just by being in that space, or even imagining being in that space. Every space has a certain feel. For some spaces, the feel is strong. For most other spaces, it is subtle. But it's always there. It is one of the properties that we discussed in the first chapter that is essential for perception. Remembering Chapter 1, Perception is not absolute and has two components. A. Raw sensory perception, and B. Some properties that are predictions filled by the subconscious. The conscious can override the missing properties if it wishes so. This feeling associated with space is a characteristic that is a prediction filled by the subconscious. You can consciously choose to fill the feel if you want to. For example, say you are at home. Close your eyes and imagine being in a beautiful temple or church or any space you like. Does the feeling in your mind-body now change? Stay in this imaginary space for some time, then open your eyes. Is your mind-body still partly holding on to the beautiful feeling? You are now physically seeing your home or your room now, but the feel is different than how you typically feel there. You can continue to hold on to this feeling for longer if you want to, with some practice. It is just that you haven't practiced this before. So effectively, you can remember how space feels and fill an experience. This is what you want to do in a relaxation setting. Relaxation is not just about what you do. It is also about what you experience. And experiencing a peaceful space feel is an integral part of a relaxation experience. Usually, when we want to take a holiday and relax, we want to go to some beautiful place, say someplace close to nature, or a holiday resort. This is fine and nice, but you still need to make a conscious choice to have a positive experience. Remember that if you don't make choices, then your subconscious makes choices for you. If you are used to stress, your subconscious will, out of habit, fill your vacation experience with a stressful feeling. It's simply because that is the experience of spaces that you experience in your day-to-day life. Then you can't really relax at these beautiful places either. So in short, in a relaxation setting, you need to choose to experience the space in a positive way. We want to get away from the word positive quickly, since it is an overused word loaded with other concepts. Remember from Chapter 4 that we want to relax like a normal person and that itself can be a deep and rich experience. Normal is not necessarily positive, but normal is neutral and open and has a tendency towards balance and health. So we want to experience space neutrally. That way we are open to organic experiences. Part 10. How we feel in the body. We will now compare similar concepts with our body. Relaxation is about the mind and the body. We don't want to have a clear mind and body separation in our discussion, though. This is especially because, for organic experiences, the mind and the body act in an extremely united fashion, as a single entity. So when we say mind and body in this discussion, it's a very loose differentiation. As we saw in Part 9, spaces have a feel. Similarly, your body also has a feel. When we are in a heightened state of mind, like happy or sad, you feel the emotion in your body. The feeling is strong and it's easy to notice. However, even if you are not in an excited state of mind, your body still holds a subtle feel. For example, as we saw earlier, if I am an engineer, I physically feel a certain way. But if I was a doctor instead, I would have physically felt different in my body. I would have talked a bit differently. Similarly, rich, poor people have a different body feel, and this goes on for many aspects of our being. Bodies have a feel. Remember the earlier discussion in Chapter 4 about average versus normal. We want to just be normal. Normal is neutral and has a tendency towards health. In a purely organic, normal state, a person feels calm and serene in the body. This feeling is just a natural state of a normal, healthy person. Your posture is not slumped, you feel balanced and grounded, your breathing is deep and regular, you are playful, you feel safe without thinking about safety, you feel open, you feel connected to your surroundings, you claim your space without being pushy, you are in flow, you are calm and confident without thinking about the term confidence. For a normal person, confidence is a normal state of affairs. Note that when we are close to nature, we feel better, as nature embodies a certain flow and alignment. But we need to understand that at an organic level, we are nature. A normal person similarly has a natural flow and alignment too. On the other hand, a modern average person has gotten so far disconnected from the natural state that nature feels so special. The feel you normally feel in your body depends on your experiences and past. For example, if you have always been in a negative state, then that's the feeling you are used to. Then your subconscious fills this negative feel with your body. So, feeling in your body is one of the properties that we discussed in the first chapter that is essential for any life experience. Remembering Chapter 1, perception is not absolute and has two components: A, raw sensory perception, and B, some properties that are predictions filled by the subconscious. The conscious can override the missing properties if it wishes so. This feeling associated with the body is a characteristic that is a prediction filled by the subconscious. You can consciously choose to fill the feel if you want to, under normal circumstances. For example, say you are at home. Close your eyes and imagine you have achieved everything in life. You are living your dream life. You have nothing more left to achieve. You are super satisfied and content now, and just relax into this state. Does the feeling in your body now change? Stay in this imaginary state for some time, then open your eyes. But now you will see that your body is still partly holding on to the feeling. You can continue to hold on to this feeling for longer if you want to, with some practice. It is just that you haven't practiced this before. So you can remember how normal feels and fill an experience with feelings. This is what you want to do in a relaxation setting. Relaxation is not just about what you do with your body, deep breathing, etc. But it is also about what you experience in your body. And experiencing a peaceful body feel is an integral part of a relaxation experience. So in short, in a relaxation setting, you need to choose to experience the body in a positive way. We want to get away from this word positive quickly again, since it is an overused word loaded with other concepts. Remember from Chapter 4 that we want to relax like a normal person, and that itself is a profound and rich experience. Normal is not necessarily positive, but normal is neutral and open and has a tendency towards balance and health. So we want to experience the body neutrally. That way, we are open to organic experiences. Part 11. Exploring depths and breadths. Depth. Depth is elusive when it comes to the mind. Understanding the depth of relaxation is like trying to judge the depth of a well. When a well has water, it distorts the view, and if it's dark below, it's hard to judge how deep the well goes. In the case of relaxation, your expectation of what is possible is like water in a well. Expectations distort the field of possibilities. Our expectations decide how deep an experience is going to be. Modern humans have less experience with relaxation, and their relaxed experiences are usually shallow. So habitually, they always underestimate how deep relaxation can be. In reality, organic relaxation can go much deeper than what we expect. Deep relaxation can feel correctly unfamiliar. Not knowing how deep relaxation feels like is the darkness in the well. We are afraid of the darkness. We are afraid of the unknown. We are afraid of the depths of our experiences, because all deep experiences require us to let go of the familiar and climb down into the unknown. Have you ever tried navigating your house with your eyes closed? Try it. There will be fear of falling, of bumping into something, of injury. When you are doing it, though, you will feel more alive. Your senses will become sharper, your hearing will be more acute, your body will be more awake, time will slow down, you experience more in the present moment. Navigating relaxation is similar, except that in the end there is no fear. Navigating the unfamiliar awakens the organic self. You experience more of the same reality, but more acutely. So let go and climb down. Trust your organic self to navigate the unfamiliar. You will see true beauty with the eyes of the mind. Breadth. Mind is like a fractal. If you stay in one state or situation, or any context for that matter, then your mind starts zooming in and you start seeing more details. Take, for example, a familiar place like the office or college where you happen to visit often. When you first visited this place, there was a certain impression feel on your mind. As you become more frequent, this feeling would have changed. Our experience of spaces becomes more and more elaborate and more specific. This is why some places like school make you feel uniquely nostalgic. Relaxation is similar. It is not one single state, but your mind will create a large variety of states with different colors. And this is healthy and essential. It is a sign of progress. Indeed, if relaxation was just one state, it would become rather boring. This monotonicity is also why, in some forms of meditation, after a few days, people start to tune out. Part 12. Self-talk. When in an organic, relaxed state, our mind is not on mute. And it doesn't need to be. In fact, our mind needs some useful self-talk during relaxation. You need to guide your mind to flow to better places. Remembering, imagination, and visualization help this guidance. And all these require internal self-talk. Reduce negative phrasing. Negative phrasing is telling yourself not to do something. For example, take the common example sentence, "Do not think of a pink elephant." As soon as you hear this sentence, you would have imagined a pink elephant. This happens because one of the jobs of the subconscious is to help you to build concepts in your imagination. While building concepts from words, it always assimilates what the individual words mean. So your subconscious will always bring up something associated with each word you use during the self-talk. In case of relaxation, if you are trying to imagine yourself in a calm and peaceful place, don't say, "This place I am trying to imagine has no noise." Instead say, "This place I am trying to imagine is calm and peaceful." Avoid negative words. Continuing from the above concept, avoid negative wording. For example, don't say, "I want to feel less stressed." Instead say, "I want to feel more relaxed." Similarly, avoid negative words such as stress, noise, pain, sad, angry, jealous, wounded, etc. Neutral talk. As we have seen earlier, we want to stay away from positivity-type wording. This is because positive is an overused word loaded with other concepts. As we saw earlier, we want to be neutral instead, which is inclined towards health and balance. Hence, we want neutral self-talk. You don't have to force yourself somehow to be positive. Instead, you want to allow yourself to be in a neutral, accommodating, and accepting space, and it will naturally attract a healthy and balanced experience. The neutral self-voice. Our voice always has an emotional signature. We change our voice based on situations, and this changes the tone and the signature. An angry voice has one signature, while a loving voice has another. When we do self-talk, the voice that we use also has an emotional signature. And the internal voice also changes based on situations. The tone, the signature, has a huge influence on our emotional states. Even for organic states, when we do self-talk, we need to be mindful of our inner voice. As we have seen with other things, here again, we want a neutral self-talk. Neutral does not mean the voice has no emotions. It just means the voice is natural, open, and normal. Helping yourself with imagination. As we have seen earlier, relaxation is not a single state and has a huge breadth of experiences. You can use your imagination to guide yourself to experience states with different qualities. This is where imagination comes in. For example, say you are at home. Now imagine that instead of being in the current times, you are in the year 1920. There is less noise. The world has a slow pace. You automatically start feeling different. This is how the power of imagination helps. You are not in the year 1920 does not mean you shouldn't have access to mental states during those times. You can, in this fashion, weave several mental states. For example, being in the year 1920 on a beach, sitting next to Elvis Presley, drinking a beautiful drink. Imagination has no limits. We do something similar to this when we read fiction such as novels. We can do this consciously, by ourselves. This has similarities to daydreaming. However, in daydreaming, we blank out the reality. In this case, though, we are highly connected to reality, just that the feeling of property how we feel is different.